Are virtue signaling sanctions on non-woke countries the next front against the US dollar? Today, Axios reported a dramatic escalation in the weaponization of the US dollar as the Biden administration threatened sanctions against Uganda over its LGBT laws. Also today, Bloomberg's out with an article pulling out all these stops to attack de-dollarization as a, quote, exercise in futility, wishful at best, and as a, quote, ill-disguised attempt to overthrow the rules-based world order, by which they mean America's global domination, which feels pretty Orwellian as far as language goes. Bloomberg kicks off admitting that the BRICS anti-dollar coalition already represents 1/5 of world trade, 1/4 of world GDP, and almost 1/2 of world population, with dozens of additional countries now clamoring to join. Bloomberg also admits that Biden seizing Russia's sovereign dollars over Ukraine was, quote, overreach, which is quite an understatement considering that is the main reason that dozens of countries are clamoring to join the China-led BRICS anti-dollar coalition. Still, according to Bloomberg, it's an exercise in futility because anything that hasn't happened can never happen. Their main evidence is a chart showing that the dollar buys about as much foreign currency today as 50 years ago, which has nothing to do with dollar dominance. It simply means other countries were inflating at the same rate until recently, which we all knew. What they ignore is actual plunging international usage of the dollar. I've talked about this in recent videos, but Exhibit A is from former Morgan Stanley analyst Stephen Jen. By the way, I'm literally reading this off a Bloomberg article from April called, quote, De-dollarization is happening at a stunning pace. Anyway, Jen found the dollar share of global reserves collapsed from 73% in 2001 to just 55% by 2021 before dropping off a cliff after the Russian sanctions, dropping 8 points to 47% last year. Meanwhile, the dollar share in trade is plunging almost as fast, now down to just 40% of world trade settled in dollars. That is down from 52% less than 10 years ago. A few weeks ago, I talked about how the Russian sanctions backfired, putting every country on notice that the dollar is now a political football that can be rug pulled anytime the US doesn't like your policies. At the time, I speculated that countries might fear that not only their foreign policy is in the crosshairs, but their domestic policy, like, for example, their stance on LGBT. Right on cue, yesterday the administration threatened sanctions against Uganda for their new anti-gay law, starting with cutting them off trade programs representing hundreds of programs and presumably escalating from there. The administration has also put similar pressure on Japan, raising domestic complaints about bullying. Now, pair this escalation of the weaponization of the dollar over LGBT policy of all things with Washington's debt ceiling green light to $50 trillion of debt by 2030, and it means the dollar is increasingly going from global safe haven to pariah asset with neither strong fundamentals nor security. All with an aggressive China only too happy to help accelerate the decline and an administration that only knows how to throw more gasoline on the fire. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.